Welcome. My guess is that at some point in time you have attended a staff meeting that could have been an email. A staff meeting that was so boring you found yourself daydreaming, zoning out, or even falling asleep. Hopefully today's webinar will not be one of those mind-numbing sessions. Today I'm going to give you some tips and tricks to help you make your staff meetings more engaging and productive. First and foremost, start on time. Oftentimes, staff meetings are held after hours. Be respectful of the time your employees are giving to you and start and stop the meeting on time. Plan ahead. Create an agenda and stick to it. Reaching out to your team to ask for agenda topics prior to the meeting will also support the conversation from getting sidetracked with unplanned topics. Create a parking lot for additional topics that come up during the meeting. If there's time at the end, address what you can and come back to the others through internal communications or at the next meeting. If the meeting is more than an hour or two, schedule in breaks. You don't want your employees to miss out on important information while they take care of their personal needs. Start your meetings with an icebreaker or a team-building activity such as 2 truths and a lie, a warm wind blows, tell me something that made you smile today, a riddle to solve, or a small group creative challenge. This will give the employees a chance to get to know a little bit about the people who work in the same building, but with whom they may not have frequent interaction. This is a great place to tell you a story about the geese. Did you ever wonder why geese fly in a V formation? As each bird flaps its wings, it creates an uplift for the bird immediately following. By flying in a V formation, the whole flock adds at least 71% greater flying range than if each bird flew on its own. When a goose falls out of formation, it suddenly feels the drag and resistance of trying to go it alone and quickly gets back into formation to take advantage of the lifting power of the bird in front. When the head goose gets tired, it rotates back in the wing and another goose flies point. Geese honk from behind to encourage those up front to keep their speed. When a goose gets sick or is wounded and falls out of formation, 2 other geese fall out with that goose and follow it down to lend help and protection. They stay with the fallen goose until it's able to fly or until it dies. Only then do they launch out on their own or with another formation to catch up with their group. So what lessons can we learn from these geese? People who share common direction and sense of community can get where they are going more quickly and easily because they are traveling on the thrust of one another. We can learn that if we have as much sense as a goose, we will stay in formation with those who are headed in the same direction or go to the same goal as we are. It's sensible to take turns when doing demanding jobs. It pays to take turns doing the hard tasks and sharing leadership. As with geese, people are interdependent on each other's skills, capabilities, unique arrangements of gifts, talents, or resources. Just like the geese take turns leading, you may want to have your employees take turns leading portions of the staff meeting. When the same person consistently leads the meeting, the flow and feel of the meeting can get into a rut. You know, when you know what joke or side story they will tell at what time because you hear it at every meeting. Using stories, even selecting some of your favorite children's books, is a great way to change up the pace of the meeting and allow team members to think deeper into the lessons that can be learned through the story. Examples of children's stories to use with staff could be The Giving Tree, The Dot, The Art Lesson, or Roxaboxen. You want to provide opportunities for staff members to take on a leadership role, a chance to uplift the team member and shine on their expertise. Ask some of them to share their stories or read a book during a staff meeting. If one of your teachers recently attended a training, ask that they share out a brief overview of the training, what they learned, and what they plan to incorporate into their classroom and work habits. Sometimes you need to check in on your team's understanding of regulations, standards, or company policies. Remember, this can also be done in a manner that sets the tone for fun and learning at the same time. Play win, lose, or draw. Use shorter regulations like the infant ratio is 1:4, or keep out of reach items need to be locked. Anything you want to check in to be sure your team understands. I once held a staff meeting at the owner's house. We had a potluck barbecue, but I also incorporated learning by placing questions about DHS regulations, NACCE standards, and company policies into balloons that were floated in the pool. They had a challenge to see who could get the most balloons in a minute, and then the balloons were popped and questions were asked and answered. You could do Survivor, where teams compete in relay races to match up clues and put scrambled regulations back in the correct order. Think about what your teams are interested in and create a game or an activity around their interests. You can also cover heavy topics with a bit of fun. Use the telephone game for conflict resolution to show how gossip or rumor mill can change the facts from one person to another based on how they perceive what they hear. We know that children can get restless when group times are too long, and the same goes for adults. Have you been sitting completely still while you listen to this webinar? Are you fidgeting with something right now? Set your teachers up for success in your meetings by offering fidget toys, doodle paper and pens, pipe cleaners, Play-Doh, and more. Change up the venue for your staff meetings. Have some meetings at the center, others at a restaurant or a coffee shop, and even do some virtual meetings so your staff can be home and relaxed. Take a field trip together. Go to museums, nature hikes, a river cruise. See what inspires your teachers from their new surroundings. Thank you for viewing this webinar. You can visit our blog at letstalkqualitypa.com for additional information on this topic.